Let's jump in. So today's Ascension with A Course in Miracles is a continuation of in the chapter 13, the guiltless world. And the reason this has become such an important topic, and I stress this the same type of work inside of the Awareness Academy where I teach. And if you anybody, I mean, there are three levels. If you want to join for free, you can join us as we're studying the lessons of A Course in Miracles, and we just do a deep dive into every single lesson. And there's coaching that happens inside of that. We look at where are we, because it is imperative. I know my life's purpose is to help people understand A Course in Miracles in its most simplest and basic way so that we can apply this into our own personal lives, because from that place we transform ourselves. It affects our frequency, and in affecting our frequency, it affects the frequency that we're putting out into the world. And right now we are in the midst of a massive transformation, and I will continue to stress until the time it is that I don't have to stress that anymore. Hello, sweet sisters. But it is a time when we are shifting into a beautiful opportunity of selecting the frequency that we want to operate from consciously, or if we don't make that choice to consciously shift into the frequency of love. Hello, sweet Natalia. We are basically choosing to remain in the frequency of fear. Now, the beautiful thing about my relationship with God that has shifted dramatically since I started this journey, this process of awakening that really began with the death of my mother. When she died, I went into a place of terror because I was afraid I was going to go to hell, because that's the training that I had received from the Catholic Church, that's just where I was going. And I knew my mom really well. She was my best friend. And I knew she was going to hell because I knew the things she had done, including, I'll tell you a little tidbit about my family lineage. My mom was instrumental. Well, I shouldn't say instrumental. She played a part in the overthrowing of the dictatorship in the Dominican Republic when she was younger. And it is a dictator got murdered. My mom smuggled things into the country that helped with that overthrow. So in my lineage, I have a warrior energy. Now let me tell you about my great grandmother, my mother's great grandmother. She was instrumental and funded much of the overthrow and the liberation of the country of Cuba. It's fascinating. She was a gun packing, horse riding, because this is before they had cars, powerful woman who funded. She was very well off because she owned a lot of land. My lineage in the Dominican Republic, I come from a very wealthy lineage. Much of that was lost and stolen, and it would make a great movie. But anyways, the warrior part in me has not gone away. The part of me that seeks the liberation. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm feeling my mother. Whew. And her great grandmother. It's easier to say great grandmother than great grandmother. Okay, so I'm feeling the lineage of, wow. We're going to do this like here live in front of an audience. Here we go. Oh, I totally receive, because especially my great grandmother, her name is Seferina Calderon. And she is known in the history books in the Dominican and in Cuba for what she did to help liberate that country. She funded Jose Marti. Man, I didn't think that this stuff was going to come out, but here we go. It's so cool. So she funded Jose Marti as he was overthrowing the government of Cuba way back then to turn it into a free country. And now we know what has happened to Cuba. It became communist. It got taken over again. My great grandmother, Seferina Calderon, would be, I'm sure, turning in her grave after all she did to ensure that that country was free to be run by the Cubans, and instead it became communist, and now it's going through what it's going through. My mother helped liberate the Dominican from the dictator, and we know what has happened to so many of these third world countries because kind of Dominican is known that way. They've been taken over, I don't know, the last 50, 60 years. I was 3 years old when the dictator was killed, and it was taken over by those who wanted to take over countries, and this has happened all over the world, take over countries and rape those countries. And what I mean by that, rape and pillage those countries, take their resources, take the goodness that they had, and turn basically everybody into a slave. And I'll tell you, that has happened in the US too. It has happened the world over. And the reason it has happened is because we don't know who we are. And this warrior energy that is getting activated in me is basically saying it's time for us to claim who we are. If we don't claim who we are, we will continue generation after generation to have to battle our way into liberation. The bifurcation that we're in right now is very simple. You either choose to ascend by acknowledging who you are as God created you. You're a powerful being. You can move up this frequency. I've got this chart that I've been using for years. It's a frequency that shows us that life is nothing but a spiral. If you look at it from above, it's a big circle. God created us to expand. However, we have been given free will, and our free will allows us to contract if we want to. We can make life really hard for ourselves if we want to. Every one of us, if we were honest with ourselves, have examples of experiences in our own lives where we were given permission, okay, go, you do whatever you want. And we chose to contract. We chose to limit ourselves. We chose to believe, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not capable enough. I'm not whatever enough. Well, this process of incarnating is a choice to experience separation from God, where we have the ability to contract. We can forget who we are. We can believe all the programming that we were given, that we're less than, that we're insignificant, that we're not as good, that we're not as capable, that we're not as smart. We can believe all of that. That just because somebody does something to our body, that means that we're broken, we're damaged, we're no good. Just because somebody does something to control us, that we somehow are a slave to the system, and we just have to follow the rules, or if we don't follow the rules, we're going to get in trouble. Well, we're at a point in consciousness where, because there's so many of us on this planet right now, that they say that there's 8 billion of us, many of us are feeling that activation within us, bringing us to a point to choose which way are we going to go through this bifurcation. It used to be that we could choose from the other side, but we are getting to choose right here, right now, while we're incarnated, while we're in a physical body. We get to decide, am I going to believe the programming of the ego that has formed this identity based on the experiences that I've had and the things that I've learned? Or am I going to break free, kind of like a butterfly? We just talked about this in the Awareness Academy. I can't remember. Was it yesterday? Was it Monday? We have classes all the time, so I can't remember when it was. But we are at the place where we get to choose to emerge from the story that we're just a lowly old being, like a caterpillar, slugging our way through existence. We are that butterfly inside that caterpillar that oftentimes had to wait to have the death transition, because the caterpillar has to enter into a cocoon, then it dissolves, and then the butterfly comes out. And the butterfly experiences itself as separate from the caterpillar. We are in the process of consciously going through the dissolving of the caterpillar essence, meaning nothing wrong with caterpillars, nothing wrong with the ego. It's what gives us the opportunity of separation until you discover that it is what imprisons you in a very small idea of who you are. And like my ancestor warrior women, we can liberate ourselves right now. And the only way to liberate ourselves, I'm feeling my mom so strongly. The only way to liberate ourselves right now is by accepting the truth of who we are. We have to cultivate a new relationship with God. We have to stop believing the immature ideas of God that we've been given. We've been given the idea of God as a human figure, like a father figure who punishes you, who is the one that if you don't do what that parent wants you to do, you're going to be in trouble. We have to move beyond because God, the creator, the Father spoken about in the Course in Miracles, is not a human. It's not a who is he? It's a what is it? And what it is pure intelligence, it's pure love, it's consciousness. And when I say pure love, it's not human love. It's a love that allows everything to be free. From its own imagination, each and every one of us has been created. We have been given a 1,000,000% freedom through free will to believe whatever we want to believe because the creative source knows that within each and every one of us is that speck of truth, spark of truth, we'll call it that. And it has been waiting lifetime after lifetime for us to decide, am I going to take the path of ascension or do I need to continue down the path of the ego, which requires that the pendulum swing from bully to victim, which means incarnation after incarnation, I come back in as the opposite of what I was in the previous incarnation. So I'm a victim in this one, I die, and I go, oh, okay, well, let me come back and correct that and be a bully. So this is why everybody is going to be, if you haven't already, you're going to start remembering aspects of not only in this lifetime when you've been bully and victim, but even in previous lifetimes. We are waking up to the remembering of the journey that we have taken that appears to have taken, gazillions of years, but it's all happening right now because all of it happens right now. So our minds are being opened up. If we want to accept this invitation, we can begin to make sense of all of the incarnations that we have had, all of the timelines that are possible, and we get to in this lifetime say, I don't need to have the death of the caterpillar for the butterfly to awaken. I can still be me, the caterpillar that I chose to incarnate as, and allow the wings of the butterfly to emerge. But the process of dissolving has to happen because we have to dissolve the misinformation that we have believed is who we are. And it's not just about who we are, it's about the whole world. Because when we understand how powerful we are and we accept responsibility for that power, we will stop misusing it. The way that we have misused our power is that God has given us the opportunity. Creation has created us to create, to extend the kingdom. And we talked about this in class last night. Remember that, Richard? And this is something that we have to make peace with. We are powerful creators. And just because we don't remember that we're powerful creators does not mean that we're not creating. This is what the Course calls miscreating. We're miscreating. We have a thought in our mind and it turns into our reality. You think you're not good enough? Well, you're going to get lots of evidence of people taking advantage of you. So you can say, see, I knew I'm worthless. I knew I'm not good enough. Look, all these bad things happened to me. And we are creating our reality. Make no mistake about it. But you can deny your power if you don't want to accept the responsibility to consciously use that power in the way that it was intended to, which is to extend the kingdom. To extend the kingdom means we need to understand who is the king of the kingdom. In this case, God, creator, source. whatever you want to call it, because it really doesn't matter what we call it. The reason we have a hard time with names is based on our programming. But if we can feel the true essence of the creative source, it is inside each and every one of us. It is what we are made of. It is the example that I've given for 2 decades now. It's as if you think of the sun as God. The rays, every single ray of the sun is who we are, meaning we are made of the sun. We cannot not be made of the sun. And the Course in Miracles, Sun, S-U-N, Course in Miracles tells us that the only difference, think about this, logically think about this, the only difference between us and God, us and Creator, is that Creator created us. That's the only difference. That then leaves us with equal power, except to create ourselves. It's already been done. I mean, you don't have to create yourself, you're done. Be thankful that check that off the list. So what is left? When Creator created us as itself, it created us to create like it creates. And it creates through extension. If we don't create through extension, we will then participate in our the complete extinction of who we are, which is what has been happening to humanity. We begin to believe the stories of the ego, that we're separate, every man for themselves, every woman for herself, fighting and arguing and doing whatever it takes to survive. Extinction is going to be part of that journey, because you can only be a victim and a bully so long before the bullies that are in charge, and they've gotten rid of all the victims, and there's only a few bullies left. Well, what's going to happen? They're going to turn on each other. We're watching that right now. Right now, in this incarnation that we're in, we're watching on planet Earth a turning against each other, a vying for power inside of much of the egoic game. We're also recognizing, if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, that there are those who are appearing to be inside of that conflict who are pretty much untouched, because they're on a mission to correct so many things on this planet. And the correction means the liberation of humanity. Because whether we like it or not, and this is one of the most important things that I'm going to say today, whether we like it or not, we've been misusing our power. And the way that we are maintained in a state of limitation, in a state of playing very small, is because we carry unconscious guilt. And that guilt, you've got to come to the place of understanding it logically. When God created us to extend the kingdom, we chose not to do that. We chose to incarnate as a separation of God, believing you're believing this. You cannot not be part of what God is. God is all that is, so you're within God. Course tells us we're in the mind of God because God imagined us, so we're in that imagination. Just as any time that we have a thought of anything, it remains in our mind. It doesn't go to a nail or to a knee or to your butt. It stays in your mind. It's something that you can recollect at any time. It doesn't, we are creating with a power that maintains creation eternally. So we have to make a decision to look at this part of us that did something. If you think about it, again, we have examples as humans that mommy and daddy told us not to do. We did it anyway, and we feel guilty that we did it. Mommy and daddy, I had experiences, told me not to play with fire. I was a little pyromaniac when I was little. I used to love playing with matches. And my parents told me, they left and told me, do not do that. And what did I do? I took a box of matches and I went underneath our house. This is when we were living in Puerto Rico. And the reason we lived in Puerto Rico is because the dictator of the Dominican had been killed, and all of the American people were sent to Puerto Rico. We lived on a base for a little while, and then we lived in Puerto Rico for a couple of years until we were able to go back to the Dominican. So underneath the house in Puerto Rico that had I don't know, was, 5, 6 feet off the ground. It was on a slope. My parents had a business where they had oxygen tanks. What they did welding, I can't remember all the details of that. But anyways, I was told don't play with those matches, and I went underneath the house. And what did I do? I collected a bunch of leaves and a bunch of twigs, and I decided I wanted to have a little fire. And as soon as one of my sisters saw what I was doing, immediately took off and let my parents know. I guess maybe they didn't leave because my parents were there, and they came down, grabbed me, put that fire out. They said you were about to blow up the whole house, and gave me the biggest whooping of my life. And let me tell you, I will never forget how guilty I felt for not listening to mom and dad. I could have blown up our family. Of course, I would have been blown up into smithereens. Thankfully, that guilt that I felt, once I recognized how guilty I felt, and I went and told my parents, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. It opened something up inside of me. It allowed me to realize that maybe parents really care about you. Maybe parents really want what's best for you. Even if human parents don't demonstrate that, the creative source of all that is does. It allows us to blow ourselves to smithereens if that's what it takes, because what created us, again, it's not a who, it's a what created us, it's an eternal substance. Call it consciousness, call it energy, doesn't matter what we call it. Is an eternal substance that knows we never go away. We exist forever in its mind, in its creation, in its consciousness, in its imagination. So it knows, okay, you're just playing with matches. You're going to blow yourself up. You're going to have that experience. But the soul that you are, the essence that you are, the spirit, again, whatever you want to call it, is eternal as it is because we've been created as it is. We were created in the image of something that will never stop being. But we get to play, walk away, and pretend to be something other than what we are. I pretended to be a girl that did not listen to her parents, almost set the house on fire. Well, blew it up from as I got older and I heard the stories of what I was potentially doing. I think I was 6 years old at the time. It would have blown everything up because of the tanks of oxygen that they used for the process, or maybe it wasn't, I don't know. It was big tanks. I remember huge cylinders that they used in the welding and fabrication process. My parents forgave me because I took responsibility to say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I will not do that again. I will listen. That is exactly what we need to do. We are being given an opportunity to say, I'm I'm guilty of not listening to the creative Father. Now, it doesn't need us to apologize to it. It just wants us to remember who we are, that we are powerful and that we have all of this power to at our disposal, and for us to begin to consciously use it. And that power is designed to extend out there whatever it is that we believe about ourselves in here. So the world that we're seeing right now, going through the challenges that it's going through, the fighting, the two sides that we have been divided into. We've been divided in by color, we've been divided by gender, we've been divided by political parties, by heck, we've been divided um by what football team we like, or as is in the news right now, what basketball team we like. Is it the women's basketball or the men's basketball? Soon the transgender basketball team. I mean, it's insane how the mind has been manipulated into divisiveness. And when we're divided against each other and we hold, I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong, you're good and I'm bad, you're the 1%, I'm the 99%, you're the haves, I'm the have-nots. If we buy into that separation, those who understand how powerful we are and are operating at the egoic level, know that we are perpetuating the story of divisiveness by believing, well, this is my side, and I'm not gonna like the people on that side. We saw it in full-blown display during the pandemic when we were told the vaxxed and the unvaxxed. We were supposed to fear the unvaxxed because the ones who don't take this shot, they're out to kill everybody. And only these people who took the shot, these are the good people. And we were divided into, if you bought into that, you bought into an idea that somebody else was in charge of hurting you, hurting grandma. So we believe that if you bought into that game, you are being manipulated, and all of that stuff is coming out now, and it has to come out now. And guess what's going to happen? So many of those who might have, out of fear, participated in that are going to feel the guilt. Not everybody's going to feel the guilt, but some are going to feel the guilt of having shamed those who maybe didn't take it. Those who didn't take it and were angry and mad and did everything that they could to lambaste those people who participated in this are going to feel guilt. They're going to feel the guilt that I wasn't as loving, I wasn't as kind, I wasn't as gentle on both sides. But here's the thing that is so exciting about that. When the guilt rises into our conscious awareness, if you are choosing the path of ascension, that I call it the irritation of the guilt coming up, because you feel the guilt, you feel the shame, you feel the discomfort of it. That irritation inside of you is an invitation for you to consciously decide, just like I did when I was a little girl. I didn't listen to my parents. I didn't listen to God. God created me to extend the kingdom. All we have to do, not go to God, and you can go to God, oh God, please forgive me. Course tells us God doesn't forgive us, but we will hear the voice for God, which is the Holy Spirit inside of us, reminding us, you never did anything wrong. God doesn't even recognize what you did because you did it all inside of an illusion, a dream. This place that we call, the third dimensional existence is imagined. And that's a whole different conversation. You've got to be comfortable with quantum physics at the level simply of understanding that E equals MC squared. You've got to be comfortable that energy equals the matter that we see, so that in your own mind you can recognize that energy shapeshifts into matter. And when we believe that this is what is true, then we feel this experience. What we're doing is waking up to remember that what we are is this energy, so we can begin to consciously, deliberately use this energy for the extension of that which is good and beautiful and lovely and serves everybody. Otherwise, we think that this is who we are based on the programming and the consciousness, and because we see it, we believe it. We're perpetuating what we've been programmed to believe by those who understand the power of the mind, but not have not done the work to open up their hearts. They're operating at the level of the mind. And listen, it's very seductive to operate at the level of the mind. I'm in control. I know how all this works. But those who are right now awakening have to make a decision to dissolve that caterpillar experience, meaning to dissolve that egoic sense of self, to end the trance that we have been under, and awaken at birth again, have the second coming, however you want to call it, the resurrection of that which is the butterfly. And by the way, every caterpillar comes with butterfly in their DNA. You know, the caterpillar doesn't turn into a butterfly because one day it decides, you know what, I want to switch what I am. That's not the way that it happens. That the butterfly DNA is in the caterpillar. Every single one of us has a DNA of the Christ, waiting to be awakened. And the only way to awaken it is by our conscious decision to accept the gift that God already gave us. There's no other way. We have to humble ourselves. just like I had to do as a little girl. Daddy, mommy, I'm sorry. I did not listen to you. I chose to do it my own way. Now I got the big spanking right off the bat after I almost blew up the house. So my parents knew to do because they were listening to the voice of their ego. Spank her and punish her, and then she'll get the lesson. But I didn't come to the place of saying I'm sorry until after I thought about what I did, which was to not listen to what they were already saying to us. When we choose not to listen to the voice for God, we are going to be trapped in the voice of the ego. And let me just say this, it's by choice. It's a choice not to listen. That's how powerful we are. We can choose not to listen. So nothing that is happening to us inside of the ego is happening to us by chance. It's happening to us by choice. We chose not to listen. But when we choose to listen and we acknowledge that we feel the guilt for not listening, then we can begin the process of forgiveness, which is to forgive ourselves for what we have participated in the co-creation of this world where so much suffering takes place. Not to make ourselves more guilty, but to free ourselves from the imprisonment of that subconscious guilt that needs to rise to our awareness so that we can see that we've been misusing our power. That's all that's going to happen. And God, the creative source of all that is not going to punish us because we're the prodigal children. We have examples of this in the Bible, the beautiful story of the prodigal child. All God is waiting for is for us to make the choice to return. And when we make the choice to return, everything changes. We're going to be playing at a different level. Those who make the choice to return acknowledge their guilt for having left, and we acknowledge it to ourselves. I'm guilty of having co-created a world where suffering has been normal because I believed the stories that I was told that I'm less than who I am. And when I went on this journey, I remembered who I am. I'm accepting who I am. It's a internal work that we all have to do. That acceptance of the truth of who I am places me at the level of responsibility that now is like, what do I do with this power? How can I use this power in service to the greater good? Because that's what you begin to experience when you begin to feel that love that is no longer service to self. It's no longer selfish. It's no longer about me. It becomes about how can I serve the brotherhood, the sisterhood, because we are all one. So in the ways that my, my mom and her great grandmother used that service to the collective was still battling the bad guys. Well, when we wake up, there are no bad guys. We're all the same. And we have to realize, and this is where the Course teaches us, that we have to look at everybody as either they know, they've awakened, they know that they are love, or they're calling for love because they're in the dream. And if they're in the dream, they have unconscious guilt that is going to come up. Can we love them through that process? Can we let them know it's okay? Whatever you didn't really happen in terms of it did not affect the soul of who I am. And that's a big component of awakening, is to recognize, as we studied 2 weeks ago, the true meaning of forgiveness is we're forgiving our brothers for what they never did. Yes, in physical, there were experiences that were had. So we can say, yes, those things were done physically, but they never touch the beingness that we are. They do not touch the essence that we are, because when we accept the essence that we are, when we let go of that guilt for pretending to not be how God created us, we tap into that love that says, wow, if I would have known who I am, I never would have been mad. I never would have been projecting out there the villains that kept me in that place of victimization. I would have owned my voice. It's another thing that we have to do. We got to start using our voice, because if we don't use our voice to honor who we are as God created us, then we let other people take advantage of us, walk all over us. We're still inside of the victim mentality. We're still inside the victim frequency. We have to learn to use our voice with gentleness, but we have to be honest, and we have to be true to who we are. We've got to trust that we really do have all this power. And humanity is so afraid of the rejection that they're going to experience by other humans that they're willing to live in fear. They're willing to live in a state of suppressing their own voice. But all you're doing with that is choosing to hold a low frequency that says, well, you need more lessons. But if you're done with the lessons because you are ready to accept responsibility for how worthy you are, how amazing you are, how powerful you are, then the only way you're going to experience life as that butterfly is you have to extend that love and that worth to everybody else. You've got to see everybody as worthy. And if they don't remember that, it's a call for love. So let's go to chapter 13, the guiltless world. And we're still in the introduction. We read the first two paragraphs before, and I'm just going to do some highlights. In the first paragraph, it says, if you did not feel guilty, you could not attack. For condemnation is the root of attack. And the reason we have to recognize that every single one of us, at the core of our human selves, our egoic story, is the underlying feeling of guilt. And this is the kind of thing that we have to do the inner child work. We've got to go to the place where we began to not listen to our creator. And it happens for many of us in different levels. For some, it happens in the womb. For some, it happens at 1, at 2, at 5, at 10. It doesn't matter. At whatever age we make the decision, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not valuable enough. My voice doesn't matter. Those are the decisions that we make. And then we abandoned the truth of who we are and become who the world needs us to be, which of course it's all the foundation of the lie. We have to admit we did this. We didn't listen to our Father, Mother, God. We have to come to the place that we admit, when I bought into the world, this is what sustains me, the world is what keeps me safe. That's a lie. We have to admit that that is a lie that we have to correct by going inside and saying, yep, I've had all this power, all the suffering that I've experienced, all the emotional pain that I have experienced. I did it to myself because I did not know any better. It affected my egoic identity, but it never touched the soul, the butterfly that wants to fly out. It's never touched it. And that butterfly cannot come out until I acknowledge and dissolve, like we dissolve the caterpillar, got to dissolve that identity. It's got to be totally, completely undone. Because at the core of it is me taking responsibility for accepting who I am as God created me. And in the acceptance of who I am as God created me, and this takes a while. It takes a while for us to train our mind to move out of victim mindset into thriving as a child of God, as a powerful, worthy, magnificent, creative, intelligent, amazing, eternal being that we actually are. So we have a wonderful opportunity here through these teachings to see and understand what's happening. If you want a guiltless world, you've got to recognize that every single time you attack somebody, you judge somebody, you blame yourself or others, it's coming from a place of guilt within. Stop and question, why am I judging? At the core of all of that, if we get really honest, at the core of that is because we're afraid. And we got to admit, what are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? And if you get to the core of what you're afraid of, you're afraid that you're not going to be heard. You're afraid that you're not going to matter. And this is where you have to override your ego and you have to say, nope, I'm not going to believe that lie anymore. I am accepting the truth of who I am as God created me. I am rewiring my brain. I am retraining myself. I am accepting the truth of who I am. And to accept the truth of who you are, you need to let go of the lies about who you're not. And that process, nobody can do that for you. You are the one who has to accept who you are as God created you. Then we went on to see um, in sentence number 2, it is the judgment of one mind by another as unworthy of love and deserving punishment. So when we believe, that I am attacking you, you're bad, you did this terrible thing. What I am reinforcing in myself is that it is okay for me to punish you because you don't deserve love. And here's the crazy part of that. If I'm saying you don't deserve love, what's happening in the background is ego is saying, I don't have love to give you, perpetuating the story inside of me that somehow I can block the love that I am from being extended. This is why the Course tells us it breaks it down into the simplicity. When you begin to see what's going on here, everything is either somebody who knows who they are extending love or they're withholding love. And if somebody's withholding love, that is a call for love. It's a call for us to remind them, hey, you're safe here. That's why we have to develop the characteristic of gentleness so people can feel the gentleness of somebody who's saying, no, it's okay. You're okay. You're good. You're still as God created you. You made a mistake. But brother, sister, you're forgiven. Jesus modeled that for us on the cross. If Jesus could forgive somebody who's nailing him to a cross, we can certainly forgive somebody who lied, who cheated, who stole, who he murdered, because Jesus forgave somebody who murdered. If we don't get it in ourselves, that the thing that will save the world is our willingness to accept that we are as God created us and extend that love out there and do for others as we would like done unto us, which is forgive us. I would have much rather my parents would have gently came and said, Lina, please don't do that again. Sweetie, this would have ended really badly. But they were caught up in their ego and what did they do? They punished me. They punished me as severely as I had ever been punished in my life. I'll never forget that spanking. It was so bad. And it was so funny. My dad never spanked me. He would always let my mom spank me. And my mom's idea of spanking was always with a belt. And I had welts in my body because they thought it was somehow a good idea that we're going to strip you naked when we spank you. You know, it is amazing. But I learned my lesson out of fear. And then I learned my lesson when I decided I don't want to carry this guilt again. Please forgive me. Never did that again. Then we went on to paragraph number 2. The first sentence of paragraph number 2 said the acceptance of guilt into the mind of God's child, which is what we are, was the beginning of the separation, as the acceptance of the atonement is its end. So the beginning of the separation is, oh my gosh, I know I feel so bad that I'm turning my back on God. I think I'm separate from God. I feel guilty. It's automatic. The minute I accept that I am as God created me is to accept the atonement, is to put myself back in the space of at 1 mint. If you break atonement at 1 mint, go back into accepting my oneness with all that is, because if we're just energy, you can't cut energy, you can't divide it. It's all one thing. And that's what we're coming to recognize, that if we're all the same energy, the same consciousness, the same substance that is eternal, and it's eternal because it's not matter, physical matter that's going to have an expiration date. It's eternal, forever existing. Then we are one with everybody else. And this is where the mind has to understand that logic. If everything is non-physical energy, then we're all made of the same freaking thing. Just as every ray of the sun is made of the same thing. So as we do our work and we forgive ourselves and we begin to use our voice to show that we have acknowledged who we are modeling for others. I'm not here to judge you, but I'm not here to become less than who I am to appease you either. Because if I'm trying to appease you, I'm judging you as somehow some kind of an idiot that can't handle my light. Because that's the trickery of the ego. If I go small, it's because I'm saying to the other, you're an idiot. You're incapable of handling me. So I'll shrink myself. I'll sacrifice myself so that you won't be hurt. But the thing is that you're hurting the other because you're saying that they're incapable of handling the truth of who you are. So when you don't model the truth of who you are, they don't get to see the truth of who they are. That's why it takes so much unraveling of the insanity in the mind, because it's like a hall of mirrors. We are projecting out there, it's like going to a mirror in your house, and we're looking in the mirror, and you're smiling, you're happy, and but you go to the mirror to change it into a frowny face. Oh, I better get sad because they're not happy. It's insane. You wouldn't go to the mirror to change you, but that's what we're doing. We go to the other. We want them to change so that we get to be okay. So let's go into paragraph number 3. If this were the real world, this third dimension that we are operating in, if this were the real world, God would be cruel. If this was reality, oh my gosh, we would have had a very cruel parent, a very cruel creator. For no father could subject his children to this as the price of salvation and be loving. Again, we have to use logic. If God really is a cruel God that demands punishment, that demands the sacrifice of our firstborn, that demands that we, murder and crucify his only begotten son with the story that we were told about Jesus, most of it not true. What? To make us feel guilty. And this is what religion, a big part of religion, what it has done when religion was manipulated for political gain, for financial gain, is let's tell them that if they don't behave, they're going to end up like Jesus. If God is willing to sacrifice its only begotten son, what do you think it's going to do to you? And when you grow up with that guilt, with that fear inside of you, I don't want to end up like Jesus. Let me not speak up. Let me not talk about love. Let me not talk about that we're all equal. Let me not love that prostitute and that, leopard and all that. Let's maintain our distance. Let's be separate, because we have the fear of God in us, programmed by a world that has decided to experience separation, which God gave us permission to do, and is using that information as a form of manipulation to keep the masses in total and complete victimization, in fear, in limitation, in subserviency, compliant, complacent, apathetic. All of those are part of the levels of consciousness that we have to move ourselves through, but nobody can do that for us. We have to do it because it's all internal. It's all a matter of deciding who we are. So the next sentence says, love does not kill to save. Love did not have Jesus killed for the salvation of our, sins. Oh, that's made up. So it takes a while to choose to believe in the God that Jesus has been teaching us about for 2,000 years. It's a loving God. You're one with that God. Why? Because you're a ray of that sun. You cannot not be what that sun is. S-U-N, sun. We're made in the image of God. And the Course teaches us there's only one difference. We didn't make ourselves. Everything else, we're exactly the same. We have a lot of power. We have to learn how to use that power responsibly. And when we use that power consciously and responsibly, it will always be for the greater good of all. It has to be. All right, sweetie, I'll see you later. Natalia letting us know she's got to go. The next sentence for if God did expect, killing to save us, if it did, attack would be salvation. And this is the ego's interpretation, not God's. Only the world of guilt could demand this, for only the guilty could conceive of this. The guilty need revenge. Sentence 6, Adam's sin could have touched no one had he not believed it was the Father who drove him out of paradise. Again, part of the story. Adam felt this guilt, and now we have to carry the shame and the guilt of Adam. Only if our minds have accepted that story. For in that belief, the knowledge of the Father was lost, since only those who do not understand him meaning the Father, could believe it. Because we didn't understand who we are, because we did not recognize how powerful we are, we went on to attack others because we attacked ourselves first. So this warrior in me is the energy that is driving me to remember who I am, to want to liberate me. I don't need to liberate the world, because the world, I have come to recognize, everybody's doing exactly what they want to do, whether they're aware of it or not. It's not for me to judge, not at all, because I see everybody as a powerful creator creating the reality that they must experience for wherever they are on their journey to awaken. And if somebody is in 3rd grade on their spiritual journey, and I only know this because I've done this, try to tell a 3rd grader, information that is shared in the mastery stage, that would be unloving and unfair. And I've tried to wake up many people who had no clue. I tried to tell them, what they were missing out and how wrong they were about their religion. I did this in the early stages of my awakening because I felt like, I got to save them. Wait a second. Let just save me. Let me get me straight. And then, of course, I learned I've lost a lot of friendships, people who thought Laina's crazy. What's wrong with her? She's possessed. Well, I was possessed, but I was misusing that energy because I was in a righteous state. I'm right. I found the truth and I need to save you. You better drink this Kool-Aid or you're going to die. Well, that scared a lot of people. And they were like, rightly so, because it taught me that I wasn't operating from gentleness. I wasn't operating from faith. I was thinking I had to do it, not trusting that God is the one that we have to cultivate a relationship with to help us through this process, the voice for God. So all beautiful lessons that brought me to the place. And now I don't go out attempting to wake up anybody. I only help those who are seeking for this help. And that's why you got to come into the Awareness Academy to do this, and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's laid out right there as perfectly as can be. Paragraph number 4. This world is a picture of the crucifixion of God's Son, meaning this world all over the place is constantly showing us the movie, the picture, repeating the crucifixion of God's Son. We keep crucifying ourselves. We keep saying, I'm not good enough. We keep saying they're not good enough. We crucify us. We crucify them. We believe that if, we've been attacked, if they say something we don't like, we believe it's an attack. So we justify defending ourselves and attacking them in our defense, which is why one of the characteristics is in our defenselessness, our safety lies. We've got to learn how to stop defending ourselves. But you don't learn that until you have had the opportunity to see the contrast between maturing enough to realize, okay, I'm changing, I'm realizing the truth of who I am, and I don't need to, if they're attacking me, they think I'm, you're spewing lies. I don't need to defend it. And the reason I don't need to defend it is because if you know who you really are, this is what forgiveness is all about. They're not doing anything that's affecting who you are. They may be saying something, but those of us who grew up in the time, I don't know, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, 80s, and we had a saying that said, "Sticks and stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me." If you adopt that mindset, whatever they say cannot affect you if you know who you are. If you don't know who you are, well, they've offended me. Who did they offend? They offended your ego. Well, they minimized me. They didn't respect me. That's all your ego that needs anything from the outside to make you feel good about yourself because you don't understand that it's all energy and that energy equals the matter that you're seeing. So we have projected out there an experience that we can lose ourselves in. So this world is a picture of the crucifixion of God's Son. The projection out there, you can watch it all over. It's people hurting each other. And at the same time, if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you will see all the love that is being shared. Why isn't that on the mainstream media? Because those who understand how to control minds know that if we stay in fear, we will do whatever they want us to do. If you come back and come inside and discover the truth of who you are, you will not be complacent, you will not be apathetic, you will not be compliant. Meaning you will not follow what somebody else tells you because you will know who you are and you will be under no laws but God's. All these things work together. But you have to understand all the pieces of this puzzle that A Course in Miracles gives us. So many pieces to the puzzle, and you've got to put them together. The next sentence, sentence 2 says, and until you realize that God's Son cannot be crucified, this is the world you will see. So until you accept that you're an eternal being, you'll continue to be offended. You'll continue to get irritations. And if you don't accept the irritations as invitations to see the lies that you've been believing, you will then defend yourself. And if you defend yourself, you're not safe. Only in your defenselessness is your safety. Because like Jesus, well, I'm not this body. You want to take the body, you want to take the house, you want to take whatever. I'm not this body. And our freedom comes from the acceptance of who we are as God created us. Otherwise, until you realize that, we will continue to play the game of crucifixion, ourselves and others. Sentence 3, yet you will not realize this until you accept the eternal fact that God's Son is not guilty. Let's highlight this, as I highlighted in my own book. Yet you will not realize that you cannot be crucified until you accept the eternal. This will be true forevermore, no matter whether you get it in this lifetime or not. The eternal fact that God's Son is not guilty. We're only experiencing guilt because we believe that we separated from God. All the while, we're still in God's mind, could not be separate even if we tried. Because that which is eternal and infinite is what we are contained within. How can we be separate from God? No more than a yolk can think it is separate from the egg white. Even if it feels like it's yellow and it's different, it's not separate. It's still within. It's still held inside of what surrounds it. We're held inside what surrounds us. We cannot not be there, because if we were not inside of God, we wouldn't be. It's not possible. If God's not imagining us, we would not be, period. So let's be glad that we exist inside of the mind of God, that we're eternally held by a loving creator that has given us free will, the ability to do whatever we try to do because it knows that it is strictly a projection of a movie And we're a character in that movie. And while we're believing we're the character, which is the identity the ego takes on, we forget who we really are, which is the one playing that role. And when you decide you're done with that role as the caterpillar and accept your DNA as the butterfly, then you let yourself expand. You let yourself be free. You can fly to greater heights because you're not bound by the density of the caterpillar. You're not bound by the density of the third dimensional mindset that can only be changed by your choice not to believe it. And that's what makes this so simple. You and I have the power to change our mind. The Course in Miracles is a course in mind training, training our mind to think differently. And so much of it has to do with recognizing what God is. And when we understand what God is and the power it has given us, then we have to be responsible to utilize that power in a way that extends the kingdom. And the only way to do that is through love. And love, because the human ego doesn't understand what love is, because love has been so, co-opted, into special love and conditional love. And if you do this for me, then I'll be happy. And if you don't do that, then I'm going to be, grumpy and mad, and I'm not going to talk to you. Where we play these codependent games with everybody, until we realize what love is, and it shows up as gentleness, as kindness, as compassion, as helpfulness, service to others, because you know that you have everything you need. So once you have it, you give all to all. You're willing to share anything that is within you, that kindness, that gentleness, you extend it. Because as you extend it, it's multiplying inside of you. And once you realize that that's really what bliss is service to the greater good, not service from, I'm going to manipulate them. Oh, I'm going to do this for them so they come back and tell me how great I am, how wonderful I am, so they'll pay me more, so they'll tip me more. Once it's done strictly for the desire of expanding the kingdom, once you know that you have that abundance of everything within you that has any kind of real value because it's eternal, then you give it away. You give your peace away, you give your joy away, you give your patience away, you give your honesty away. You just do that all the time until that is just who you are. And that is what the Christ consciousness is about. Jesus tapped into that and lived from that place. We can do that too, but only if we want to. It's a choice to accept that we are as God created us, and then allow that to emerge. That is the resurrection. We're letting the truth of who we are be resurrected. But we took on the caterpillar form to have this experience and then have that big transformation. Oh, wow, look at the butterfly. Humanity is at that crossroads right now. Some are going to remain caterpillars. Some are going to emerge as butterflies in this lifetime. And the experience is going to be very different. Because while we are in this world, those who choose not to be of it, because they know who you are, we know who we are, we will be co-creating the happy dream. We're extending love and kindness and gentleness and helping to find all the things that will make life on this 3D planet more enjoyable. Will be in service to the greater good. It will be a collaborative co-creation. Those who are too afraid of their light, can't believe that's possibly true, close-minded to, well, I wonder what it would be like if it is true, but want to be right about who hurt them and who they're in charge of, or their righteousness or their victimization. Those are going to remain in the density of the caterpillar. You're not going to have the same vista as somebody who is flying high versus somebody who is just sluggishly working their way through life. We are getting the opportunity to experience that while we're still in physical form in this lifetime. We don't have to die to then decide, you know what, I'm done with that, being a caterpillar, I'm just going to be a butterfly. We get to do that while we're still here. So we have to go through the transformation consciously of the shift from caterpillar to butterfly. Then it goes on to say, Well, let me repeat sentence 3 again. Yet you will not realize this until you accept the eternal fact that God's Son is not guilty. You are the one who has to accept this truth about yourself. Sentence 4, he deserves only love because he has given only love, meaning the Son of God, the son, daughter, child of God. Everybody deserves only love because God has given us only love. That's all that we really have to give. But if we don't give it, we suppress it. That depresses us, that makes us feel small, and well, down the ego's rabbit hole we go. He cannot be condemned because he has never condemned once you know the truth of who you are, the love that you are. The atonement is the final lesson he need learn, for it teaches him that never having sinned, he has no need for salvation. Boom, mic drop. This is it. Once you accept that you did no wrong, you don't need to be saved by Jesus dying on a cross. You don't need to be saved by the judge saying that you're not guilty. You don't need to be saved by your hearing your partner say that you're amazing. You don't need to be saved because you know who you are and you live from that truth. And when you live from that truth, you're free and you free others from playing the game of pretending that the ego has caused us to experience. This is why accepting who you are as God created you is frees humanity. It frees the world from your expectations, from their expectations. It allows all beings to be free because love, the love of God, sets all beings free. It cannot be any other way. There's no condemnation, there's no expectation, there's no games, there's no manipulation. All that stuff remains at the third dimensional caterpillar level where the ego reigns supreme until you decide that there has to be another way. And that way is a way of remembering to accept who you are as God created you. You don't have to really learn what you are, even though we go through classes, we train our mind. What we're doing is we're training our mind to remember who we are by questioning the thoughts that tell us we're not that. Case in point, the only way that I was able to move past my fears of going to hell was when I went down in a deep dive of learning where did this whole story of hell come from. And I discovered it was made up. It has a starting point. The Course tells us every thought system has a starting point. When I discover where the story of hell came from, made up by humans, inserted into the Bible, as somehow, because it was inserted hundreds of years ago, so my generation accepted it. Oh, well, that's the truth, because we were taught not to question. This is the word of God. But when I began to discover, wait a second, if God is inside of me, and this doesn't resonate, well, whose word is true? The word of God outside of me or the word of God inside of me? And when I made the choice to accept the word of God inside of me, it activated a power inside of me that has been there all along, but had been dormant and was only dormant because I was believing, I had chosen to believe that those outside of me knew better than me. And the thing is, they did not know better than me. They knew different than me. And just because they knew different didn't mean that what they knew was the truth, which I later went on to realize most of it is not true. It's made up. And that's why we have to be courageous enough to question our own beliefs. And the only way to question your own beliefs is to sit with the discomfort of the possibility that maybe you were wrong. Maybe you've been wrong your whole life. Not to make you feel like you're stupid, dumb, but to allow you to realize that there is way more than what you've been tapping into. But what is available to you is only available to you when you decide to reach for it. Why? Because God gave us free will, and it is not going to force us into accepting what is true about us. It will let us play and pretend to be something other than what we are, because God knows that we are already safe in its mind. And it's not going to force us, because it loves us so much that it gave us the freedom to play these games, because it knows our soul, our spirit will never be affected by this. We just simply have to wake up. Like a child needs to wake up from a nightmare in its sleep. The worst thing the parent can do is startle them. Wake up, you're dreaming. Best thing you can do is gently turn on the light a little bit, not too bright. And just let it, I'm right here. I'm right here. You're safe. You're in your bed. You're having a bad dream, but you're in your bed. You're in your room. You're in our house. You're safe. That's what all of our guides, that's what the Holy Spirit is doing. You're safe. You're in the room. It's okay. We'll just turn the light on a little bit until your eyes can adjust. And then you'll see it was just a dream, just a nightmare. You're safe. And with that, my sweet friends, I feel complete. Thank you all so much for being here. This is this warrior spirit that just got activated. I felt that sweet presence of my mother. We don't need to convince anybody about this. This is a journey that we're doing for ourselves. Liberate you. And then you'll see why liberating others will be easy. Love you all. Bye-bye.